We now know why Stone Cold Steve Austin was not at WrestleMania 40 on night 2 for the main event between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Of course, the popular theory going into that match was that we would see John Cena, who did arrive to take out Solo Sikoa just as we predicted, but we thought we'd also see Stone Cold Steve Austin to be the one to arrive to take out The Rock. That did not happen. It wound up being the gong that hit, not the glass shattering, and The Undertaker came out, gave the choke slam to the final boss to show The Rock that the real final boss was The Undertaker at WrestleMania. But we, again, had expectations that it would be Steve Austin. Why do we think it would be Austin? Well, it went back to the theory that when you looked at the beatdown that happened on Raw with Cody Rhodes and The Rock, you saw this visual where you had John Cena in the background on the production truck for WWE, perfectly lit, well presentation, everything. Like, they made it very clear that that was what they had in mind, right? And we thinking, okay, Cena, Austin. Makes sense when you think about how they could do this big Avengers-like finish, which they wound up doing at WrestleMania. So when we saw Cena come out, as I mentioned in our post-show reaction live stream, I said, okay, at that point, I am 100% sold on the fact that here comes Stone Cold soon enough, because The Rock came out to confront Cena, and then that leaves you in a situation where someone has to come out to confront The Rock to put Cody back in a position to win the match and finish the story. And so The Undertaker's music hit, and all right, then you're starting to realize we're not going to get Austin, right? Here's what happened. So, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week, it was reported that the reason that Stone Cold Steve Austin did not appear at WrestleMania 40 was simply due to WWE and Austin not being able to come to a financial agreement. It was made clear in this report that he was the one who was planned for this spot, as we all expected, but that they could not make it work financially, and that is the reason why The Undertaker was the person who replaced Austin in that memorable finish, probably one of the most memorable finishes in WrestleMania and WWE history, when you think about all the things that were combined to happen there to lead to Cody winning the match to win the championship for the first time. But that was not anything that really was that big, right? It was something as simple as these two could not agree on money. And it's unfortunate because we all talked about the build-up to WrestleMania 40 and knowing that they did want to make this the greatest WrestleMania of all time, the biggest event of all time. And let me tell you, I have a plan to do a video where I'm going to tell you exactly where I would rank this WrestleMania now that we've had a little time to look back on it. I don't like to just immediately jump into the recency bias and say it's the greatest ever immediately after the show. I like to look back at some other stuff and really study it to see where does this thing rank in my personal opinion. And we will do a video on that. They still did pretty well with The Undertaker. That was still a huge surprise. A lot of people were not expecting Taker. There is something that I do think I missed, though, and I haven't brought this up in other videos. If you go back on night 1, the tag team match, The Rock did do the whole Taker throat thing, right? And at the time, I didn't read much into it, but before he went for the people's elbow or whatever it was, that's what he did, and so it made sense now going into the next night. But still, if we would have had the glass shatter, and Steve Austin comes out, you can make storyline sense for why the Taker would be there as the final boss of WrestleMania, showing, The Rock who the real final boss is. But there is no doubt in my mind that had Stone Cold Steve Austin's music hit and the glass had shattered, I mean, a lot of us would have just become children again. Like, we would have been screaming. Like, it would have just been an unbelievable scene to see Austin come out, go face-to-face with The Rock, give him a stunner, and still lead to the same result. One of the things I said when I was trying to guess why Austin did not show up, I said, maybe it's just the old school nature of Steve Austin, saying, I don't want to be the person who comes out there, it becomes about me and The Rock, instead of this just being about Cody Rhodes and having this huge moment. I don't think it would have overshined it, in that particular perspective, but I thought maybe Austin's just an old school kind of guy. He doesn't want this to be about him in any way. He wants to give Cody his moment. But it turns out it doesn't seem like that was the case, really. It really was just seemingly, if you go by this report, which I know not everyone is always going to believe everything that Dave Meltzer says, but if this is the report you go off of, then it at least makes some sense as to why Austin was not there, because I also thought, well, maybe, the WWE just not have this in the plans? But the more you thought about it, you're like, why would they tease it on the production truck? Why would they do this, right? If there was never any expectation to give fans that Steve Austin would be there. And I think that's why, for some people, it was ultimately a disappointment, which you never want to do. You never want to put your fans in a position where they feel disappointed because you don't advertise or you don't deliver on something that you advertise. And even though they didn't blatantly deliver this, we all, I think, came around to the conclusion that they were pushing us in this direction, to feel like they shot it this way for a reason, with the camera shot, with The Rock beating up Cody and having this well-lit production truck in the background, professionally lit. There was a reason for that, and we all started to buy into what that was. And like I said, at least half of that played out with Cena getting involved. But yeah, like, you still think about what would that moment have been had the glass shattered and Stone Cold Steve Austin made his way out. I think that would have been, we think about the biggest pops that Austin's had throughout his career. I mean, I think that would have been right up there in terms of probably one of the biggest pops in the history of Steve Austin's career at WrestleMania 40, because I just think you would have had people lose it, right? And I think it's wild to think about how many great pops he did have in his career. Obviously, the one, coming out to help Mankind and all that back in the day, but I just think this would have been extraordinary to see how people reacted and to just get the visual of Austin and Rock in the ring together, going face to face, and Rock realizing that, he's here to try to finish Cody, but it's his longtime rival that is the one who thwarts his plans and ultimately allows Cody to finish the story. So not a lot more, and maybe nothing, juicy as we expected this to be. We thought this could be some, just big thing. WWE never consider Steve Austin? Are you serious? Doesn't seem like it's the case. If you go by this report, it does seem like they were very intent on bringing Austin in for this spot for WrestleMania 40. Instead, they turned to The Undertaker, who, once again, The Rock was no match for The Undertaker's gong here, and it was Taker taking out The Rock. But the ultimate finish, the same as it would have been had Austin been there, had Taker been there, it was Cody Rhodes triumphing and becoming the new undisputed champion. So, let me know your thoughts. Are you still disappointed that Steve Austin was not there at WrestleMania 40? There's still a little bit that there, thinking of, envisioning what the moment could have been. But hey, if you're trading Steve Austin for The Undertaker, you're doing okay. Because two legends, as we know, throughout the history of WWE. And we'll see if we get a Steve Austin appearance at some point in the future, if they can agree on the financial terms, which seem to be what held things back here in this particular spot. So there you go. There's some thoughts on Austin not showing up at WrestleMania and now figuring out maybe why that was. So as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that subscribe button on your way out. Hit the like button as well. Lots of fun talking professional wrestling. What a week it's been. Leading up to WrestleMania 40, after WrestleMania 40, and we still got a lot of stuff to talk about here as we now continue the road in WWE to Backlash, and we'll have it all covered as always here at Wrestling Reaction. So I appreciate you guys watching as always, and let me know your thoughts on Steve Austin and WWE reportedly not coming to terms on an appearance for him in the main event at WrestleMania 40.